So the CL Racing F7, I have the version 2.1 with the MPU 6000. This board right here seems to have been giving a lot of people some trouble with the video. One of the things you need to do is try to follow the manual that comes with it, and I've heard a lot of people say that they have. Well, I'm gonna try to help you guys out with this thing a little bit. Maybe it'll help you get your video up and running. So I have my camera running just as described in the manual. I'm not using the camera control pad, and with this particular drone I'm running the TBS. This is the 5 volt. This is the 5 volt VTX. So I can only power 5 volts to this video transmitter. Now I've run this board 2 different ways. One of the things you need to make sure of is that you jumper either one of these 2 pads to select your voltage that goes to your video transmitter right here. And I've selected the 5 volts, but you can see I've got this pad 10. I have run a high voltage edition on this particular board, and I have 2 of these in the house. So, and they both of them, the video transmitters, work. It can get a little frustrating sometimes because I forget about the true pit mode that it has for it. I've taken this drone right here apart in particular because I crashed it in the dirt and I had to clean the motors up. And I'm wanting to put a new Crossfire receiver on it because this RXSR, it survived a pretty bad crash, but I lost link quality flying this drone and crashed it in a pile of dust. And if anybody's ever had to clean dust out of motors, it's not fun. But anyway, I'm gonna get this thing hooked up to Betaflight. I'm gonna try to show you guys my settings in Betaflight. Hopefully it'll help you get this thing set up. That way you can get your video out. Now keep in mind that if you've tried everything, you know you got a good camera, you know you've soldered your power pads here, and you've selected the proper settings, and I'm going to show you how to do that in Betaflight for your video transmitter. It should work. If it doesn't, I might start to call into question if I got an issue with the video transmitter. Pay no attention to this wire right here. This is a motor signal wire. I'm using my LED pad and this pad right here in particular for a motor signal. You see I got this pad jumper for motor 4, and that's because this board right here survived a pretty bad crash and it completely ripped off the connector here. So this particular pad right here and this one right here, this wire is not connected to anything. I wasn't getting a signal to my motors, so I had to find a different route to make it work. And I had remapped the pins right here on my F7 chip so I could make this drone fly again. So I'm going to show in Betaflight, I'm going to do a dump, and you can possibly try to follow along the settings that I have for the video transmitter, but I wouldn't copy and paste my settings because, like I said, these motor wires right here, these are signal wires for my motors in order to get this thing to fly. And I know this drone flies, it flies great, but the motor signal wires are completely different than what yours would be if you're running your motor signal wires out of your connector there. Alright, so I'm here in Betaflight, and one of the main things that you need to do is make sure that you set up a switch in your radio for this setting, this feature here. It doesn't matter if whenever you're in the mode tab,
sensor lost.
it doesn't matter if whenever you're in the mode tab, if you're not even going to be using the switch.
Horizon mode. Angle mode.
It doesn't even matter if you're going to be using the switch at all, but you have to set up a switch
FPV.
for your radio. That way you see it working in the slider tab, whether or not you're going to use it or not. If I wanted to leave the pit mode on all the time, I would still have a switch set up in Betaflight. And as you can see, my video, when I hit save, my video just came on in my goggles. So that's one of the things that you need to make sure that you do. So
FPV.
see, now my video is off, but I can see my switch working. That's one of the biggest things. You gotta make sure you have a switch set up. So just go in your receiver tab. If you know how to set up a switch,
FPV.
you can program a switch. And as you can see, my video just came on. Now, if you're still having problems, like I said before, you might want to call into question whether your video transmitter is working or not. You could, if you wanted to, you could set it up on your auxiliary 1 switch. That way, whenever you can go this right here, select auxiliary 1, open the slider all the way up, just like that, save, and you see my video just came on. And it doesn't matter
Armed.
if I have it armed or not. So it's just one of the ways that you can get around this, but you have to have a switch set up. I continually forget that I have a switch set up, and that's why it's so frustrating to me. But as you can see, it does work. So I hope this video helped someone. Also wanted to do a command line interface dump. That way you guys could see some of my settings for the VTX. So I'm just going to do a quick dump. Enter. And here is all my settings on my flight controller. I don't change anything from the default values. I usually leave everything about the same. This quad does need some tuning, and I will do that later on. I wouldn't copy and paste this dump here because I have changed a lot of the I have remapped the motors and everything, so you could wind up with something a little screwy with the resource mapping. My resource mapping for my motors is completely different than what yours would be if you had flashed this board and just try to do a basic setup. So, but you can copy, if you're running the TBS, you could copy and paste the VTX tables. That needs to be set up in Betaflight. This is I'm running firmware version 4.2.11. And here's some of the VTX settings right here for you. And you could try to copy and paste these. And remember, if he asks you to walk a mile with him, make sure you walk 2. your poor boy. Peace out.